It's Game 2 of the 1998 Finals. This was a critical game for the Bulls and one of the most overlooked performances. They lost Game 1 in overtime and they can't afford to go down 2-0. But before we get to Jordan's performance, here's what everyone was talking about before that game.
Is fatigue a factor for Chicago, especially for Michael Jordan? As great as he is, he's only human, and he is 35 years old.
And for the first time in Game 1, there were signs of fatigue, signs of being 35 years old. This year, Michael played more minutes than any year since 1990, and his shooting percentages were significantly lower than last year.
But it's almost inescapable that fatigue has to be part of the fact that Michael Jordan's field goal percentage has dropped markedly in the fourth quarter of the last half dozen games.
I shouldn't have to tell you that he took that very personally, and he came out on fire. He scored 8 points in the first quarter while going 4 of 8 from the field. That was a rare instance where he took the ball to the rack. In the majority of the shots that you'll see, he's barely dribbling the ball. He is scoring within the offense. He was wisely looking to save up enough energy to take over in the second half. Let's not forget how good of a catch and shoot player he was. And then we have tremendous passes like this one to Luke Longley. Here, we see a simple play. He's not looking to do too much. He has a mismatch. He sets up a good position with Stockton guarding him, and he gets an easy score. Now here comes the game within a game. Shannon Anderson does a good job of locking Jordan in that position and gets an easy basket. So they take the ball up the floor, and he wants payback. He's fighting to put him in that same position. He patiently waits for his teammate to give him a good pass, and he also gets an easy score. That's what he does in the first half. The Bulls lead by 4 points thanks to the trio of Michael, Scottie, and Kukoc. They scored 40 of the team's 50 points. It was a nice, balanced attack. In Jordan's case, he was doing everything within the flow of the offense. He wasn't jacking up shots, dribbling to no end. He was quick and decisive. It seems like players nowadays aren't as proficient with playing off the ball. But Jordan gave him a great lesson of how to save up energy when you're this deep in the playoffs. Because when we get to the second half, we see those signs of fatigue. Jordan gets into a little slump. He went 4 of 11 in the third quarter, and he missed some easy shots like that. But what do you do when your shot isn't falling? You find other ways to score. We see a great box out from a Pippen miss, and he gets an easy bucket. But now it's time for the fourth quarter, and now we see a lot more dribbling. Now we see MJ in attack mode, and he made this tough shot over Karl Malone. A few plays later, we get a vintage play. He backs up the poor Jeff Hornacek, give him a nice head fake, and he makes a tough and one jumper. So much for all the fatigue talk. This is a whole nother player that we're seeing in the final period. He is attacking the defense, and he's taking advantage of the foul trouble that Malone found himself in. But the Jazz fight back. Hornacek makes a huge three-pointer that gives them the lead with under 2 minutes left. The Bulls found themselves in the same situation as Game 1, but they caught some breaks. Most notably was this play. Steve Kerr took a quick three-pointer, but he grabbed the rebound and he dumped the ball to Michael for an easy score. This was Jordan's and the Bulls' last field goal of the game, and their most important one. MJ scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, and the Bulls ended up winning the game 93-88. His stat line was 37 points on 42% shooting, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. This was not his most efficient performance, but that doesn't mean he had a bad game. The box score indicates that he was a plus 16. Everyone else from the starting lineup, including Dennis Rodman, was either a plus 1 or a minus 1. This team was struggling to make shots in the second half, so they relied heavily on Jordan to deliver, and he came through, which was the story of the Chicago Bulls during this playoff run. That's what everyone was talking about, Michael Jordan being fatigued. So much so that he said this after the game, quote, "I just decided to use a little bit of Zen Buddhism and relax. Instead of being frustrated, just smile and let it flow. Channel my thoughts, my frustration in a whole different form." End of quote. But there's more to the game than just X's and O's. And there was no one that knew more about the mental and spiritual aspect of the game better than Phil Jackson. For someone who was the most popular sports figure in the world and everyone's watching, expecting a high level performance every single game, that was important for someone like Michael Jordan. He also said he was going to smile instead of being frustrated. So with under 4 minutes to go in the game, Jeff Hornacek is at the free throw line. You can see here, he is all smiles. Talk about a cold-blooded killer. He is smiling while he's ready to rip your throat out. But that's not to say that he was the only reason why they won. Scottie Pippen deserves some love as well. He made some big plays down the stretch that allowed the Bulls to hold off the Utah Jazz. It wasn't just scoring, but hustle plays like these. Then we have Dennis Rodman. He was a big reason why Karl Malone had 16 points on 31% shooting. He couldn't get the position he wanted at the post, so he had to settle for outside shots, and he missed a ton of them throughout the game. The Utah Jazz shot themselves in the foot. This was a team that shot better from the field. They won the rebound battle, and they had more assists. But the turnovers are what killed them. They had 20 turnovers. A lot of them which is unforced errors. Others was players forcing the ball to Malone when there wasn't an opening. This was their game to win. As Michael Jordan said in the postgame interview, the pressure was all on them, and they folded, as they did a lot throughout the Stockton and Malone era. And the Chicago Bulls took advantage, and they set the tone for the rest of the series. If we're going to be honest, Jordan would have never gotten a storybook ending if it wasn't for this supremely underrated game.